Yeah. Hi, this is Michael Russ. Thank you for joining me for another Beyond the 3D podcast and YouTube video. I have the pleasure, the honor of having an awesome guest, somebody who I've known for several years, this from a distance.
Oh.
She lives in Hawaii, on Maui. What a beautiful place to not only practice, but to write and to hold her own radio show. Her name is Dr. Carolyn Dean, and she's a medical doctor and a naturopathic doctor, which makes her, in my view, doubly interesting and garner double the respect for taking her profession to new heights. Now, Dr. Dean has very special expertise in the area of magnesium supplementation. And this is what we're going to talk about today, because rising above the 3D level of worry, fear, anger, and anxiety, health issues. I mean, adversity is huge when it comes to people wallowing in this world of drama and worry and concern and fear. As far as health goes, little things you do today, little moves you do today have huge consequences down the line. I'm talking 20, 30, 40, and 50 years down the line. And I know personally myself, I started looking at that 30 years ago. So here in my 50s, and I'm 58, I'm not afraid to say it, I'm 58 years old, and I am actually benefiting from decisions I made 30 years ago to not do things, to stay away from certain things. So it's important. Dr. Dean is going to talk to us today about magnesium supplementation, kind of give us a primer. And I'm really, really happy to have her here on our show with us. Carolyn, how are you? Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, Michael. It's important to get the information out there for people to be able to hear it. Reading it is good, but I agree. I podcast where people can interact with the face and the hand movement. It is very important. And yes, I too have been on a health journey for many years, and a couple of years ago when I turned 65, I stopped stating my age. So yes, you really you really can benefit by taking those small steps. And yeah, magnesium for me has been sort of the gateway to give information to people, and as well give a really solid material sense of what you can do, what you can take, and how you can benefit. So as you start having more energy, sleep better, have less aches and pains, you can do more with your life. And you can open your eyes and say, oh my gosh, there's much more to life than waiting for me to end up in the hospital with tubes running out of every orifice. We should be living to 120. That is our birthright. And that's where I go beyond the 3D. I mean, that is talking 4D and 5D to say, I'm going to live to 120 and be healthy and happy.
That is so true. You have a special story, though, about yourself and magnesium that I really think is special. Kind of, how did you, because you have a formula that you developed. We'll get into that in just a little bit, because I know I take it and I really want you to stress it too, because there's something very special about it. But what's your story with magnesium?
I was living in Manhattan, and a friend of mine introduced me to a publisher at Random House, and they wanted a book on magnesium. And, I'm a medical doctor, naturopath. I should know about all these things. And I thought, oh my gosh, writing 300 pages on magnesium, that's going to be hard. So when I started doing the research and realized that it helps treat heart palpitations and leg cramps and insomnia and neck tension and back stress and tension, which was what I was suffering, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm magnesium dependent. And, I really need this stuff. And so that began my journey by doing the research for the book. The book is coming up to another edition in 2017. It's a bestseller, and I'm just really amazed and happy how much magnesium information is out there now. But my story then began when I tried to get a magnesium that did not have the laxative effect. Because as I started supplementing my stuff with magnesium, I was getting diarrhea constantly.
Yeah.
I was losing weight. I was actually getting worse because I couldn't get enough magnesium without having that laxative effect. So, I mean, long story short, it's been about 10 years. I couldn't find a company that was willing to do the research or spend the money to educate people about this. So I took it on myself and created a product that you say you use. That's wonderful.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, that's my story. And often, you know, especially someone like me, a medical doctor, naturopathic doctor, I was not interested in being a product doctor. I've been asked to be a product doctor since my first year in medicine because, you know, everybody thinks, oh, she'll sell our products for us. I stayed away from it. And then, you know, come to find out I have to create my own product. And then I realized it is the best product. It's, you know, it's really helpful when a person can take enough magnesium to treat the 700 to 800 different enzyme systems that require magnesium.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're deficient, you suffer head to toe. And yes, you go ahead, Michael. We'll get into all that.
It's really amazing. I mean, for somebody who's younger, who may not see obviously younger people don't have heart palpitations, but young people do have leg cramps. I know I've come across people, and I have friends, and their kids have leg cramps. I had leg cramps when I used to play sports. You know,
of course.
Tell me, can your body become depleted of magnesium through athletics?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where a lot of the young people are affected. Even high school, I get parents calling me and writing about that. You sweat out your minerals. In the military, for example, especially in the Middle East, sweating so much that when they take off their t-shirts, they have to hang them up to dry the sweat off. Take the t-shirt off in the morning. It is a board. It is the consistency of a board.
Right.
They have to beat out the minerals that have deposited in the t-shirt before they wash it. So they're losing minerals constantly. And what do they take? A electrolyte supplement that's sugar and sodium. So what are they doing, these athletes? They're getting diabetes with all that sugar, and they're getting high blood pressure with all that sodium. And I don't mean sea salt. I prescribe or recommend sea salt. So we've got a situation with these athletes that they're getting sicker and sicker. I have 6'5", 300-pound NFL players calling me up, and they're just distraught. They're having anxiety and panic attacks and heart palpitations and leg cramps, and they have to quit the game. You know, what are they going to do with all this seemingly, chronic symptoms that their doctors are saying, well, you have to take an anti-anxiety medication. Here's some muscle relaxants. Heart palpitations. Oh, that's 3 more drugs. So they're completely distraught. Now, most of the time, I'll give them all the magnesium information. They say it makes sense, but then I don't hear back from them because their doctors talk them out of it being, oh, it's not magnesium, because we never learned about it in medical school.
Right.
So that's driving the whole kind of magnesium is too simple to deal with life-threatening problems.
Well, my major concern for many people, and I know for me, I told you I've been on a 30-year program. I stopped drinking uses. I don't think I've ever had any of those supposedly quote unquote renourishing electrolyte instituting sugary drinks basically that are out there right now. And they're listed. There's some vitamin water. There's this kind of water. There's all these kinds of things that claim to do that. And you're right, they're putting sugar and processed salt back into our body. I mean, when I was young, back in, in the 60s and we were playing football, they used to give us salt tablets.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Salt tablets?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Good old sodium chloride, yes.
Right. But we're in a more sophisticated age now. And a lot of the foods people are eating don't have nutrients in them. Can you get magnesium from eating fruits and vegetables or anything else?
Right. Yeah, I kind of was leery about the sophistication, because the sophistication has cut us into high-tech processing of food, marketing and promotion of empty calories, foods that are sugared or lots of fat, one or the other, and then artificial sweeteners. So we've got so much processed food, and there's no magnesium in processed food, you might as well say. And besides that, 100 years ago, we could get 500 milligrams of magnesium in a decent average diet. Now we're lucky to get 200 milligrams. And I'm saying that the current RDA of magnesium, 300-400 milligrams, is so low. Yet at the same time, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says that 80% of people are not even getting the RDA of magnesium. I think you need 600, 700 milligrams. So that's twice as much as the government is telling us to take is what we probably need just to remain healthy. Then on top of no minerals in the soil, which means no minerals in the plants, no minerals in the animals that eat those plants. Then we have people developing magnesium deficiency symptoms, put on medications that drain out more magnesium, especially medications that have fluoride in them.
I think I saw a commercial for Nexium.
Uh-huh.
And in the commercial, it says that Nexium, which is the purple pill, deplete magnesium in the body.
Yeah, they're finally putting the warnings on. And that's after, probably knowing it from day 2 of working with these drugs. Yes, actually, Mildred Zelig, a medical doctor who was a famous magnesium expert, she's now passed away. She went into the drug industry as her first job out of medical school, and her job was to assess what happens to the nutrients in a person's body after they take drugs. And what she found was astonishing. She said, okay, you get a level of magnesium before the drug. They give you the drug. Afterward, the magnesium level is elevated. So
really?
what the drugs were doing was creating such an emergency in the body that the body had to push out magnesium in order to deal with the drugs, because magnesium helps the liver detoxify drugs. It helps push drugs out of the cells once they get in the cells. So it's busy dealing with drugs. And when Mildred brought this to the attention of the drug company executives, they just wouldn't either listen or just didn't want. They covered it up. She finally left the company and went into mineral research, especially magnesium, because think about it. You take a drug, it shocks your body so much, it has to push magnesium out of your muscles and out of your bones in order to deal with the chemical. But you've given yourself a magnesium treatment. So maybe what you're really doing is feeling better, supposedly with the drug, but it's because of the magnesium. And then, 6-8 weeks into a drug, you start feeling worse. Your magnesium is so depleted that the drug side effects then, come to the fore. And that's why if you notice the magnesium, you notice drug research, they only do studies for about 8 weeks, and then they produce their results.
Right.
because that's when the honeymoon effect is happening. You feel good on a drug, but then the side effects kick in. So I mean, it's kind of theoretical what I'm saying, because it was just something that Mildred told me. I don't know if she published it. It's
quite interesting though.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
From a basic level, it's a nutrient that we're not really getting in our diet that we need more of. That
Right.
the thing that's fascinating to me are the 800 enzyme processes in the body that require magnesium. I mean, that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's the case. Yet, such an important mineral kind of goes by the wayside. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm a conspiracy guy, but I just happen to believe that pharmaceutical companies only have interest in something that they can make money from, and it's obvious that magnesium is not one of those things that you can make a lot of money from. All those really cool, interesting minerals between magnesium or chromium or whatever it is that help the body in such a way that it really, from a long-term perspective, it's beneficial today to get on the proper supplementation, especially if you're active.
All right. Right.
I mean, let me ask you this, because there's so many different things that happen when you don't have enough magnesium. You mentioned a couple of them, in terms of your liver function. Leg cramps are probably real big with most people, and the heart palpitations. Is heart palpitation, is that like heart arrhythmia or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. I mean, people can think of it this way. When you have problems with your heart, they put an EKG monitor on you, electrocardiogram, and that measures the electrical activity of your heart. So in order for electricity to work, you have to have minerals, you have to have electrolytes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your electrolytes are messed up, then your electrical conductivity of your heart is messed up. And the most important electrolyte is magnesium. Magnesium, there's 10,000 times more magnesium inside a cell than there is calcium. So the way a cell works, either a muscle cell to cause a contraction or a nerve cell to cause nerve firing, to make our nerves and muscles work together. Mm-hmm. That cell with 10,000 times the magnesium allows a bit of calcium to come in, not that much, to trigger the action of the muscle or the action of the nerve. Mm-hmm. If there isn't enough magnesium to then force that calcium out, then the calcium stays in and keeps triggering. You get the twitching of the eyes, you get the muscle cramps, you get numbness, tingling, you get all kinds of symptoms that when you go to your doctor, these days with muscle twitching and nerve tingling, mm-hmm. they right away say, oh, maybe you have multiple sclerosis. I've had many people tell me that they were misdiagnosed with all kinds of neurological problems, and then when they read about magnesium helping the nervous system, took magnesium, their symptoms went away. I mean, it's as simple as that. The body works using all these electrolytes and minerals, and if you don't have them, it's not going to function properly. And the reason why magnesium isn't looked at by doctors, besides the fact that we didn't look at the clinical application of minerals in medical school, when you measure magnesium in the bloodstream, only 1% of the total magnesium in the body is in the bloodstream. So we're using the wrong indicator. And in the serum magnesium will always stay at a normal level to protect the heart. So if the serum magnesium drops a little bit, then again, you pull it out from the bones and muscles to protect the heart. And as you're pulling it out from the bones and muscles to protect the heart, then you're getting your muscle cramps, then you're getting your twitches in your arms and legs, but your heart is protected. It's then the indication of real magnesium deficiency when you start getting the heart jumping around and the arrhythmias, and mm-hmm. it's epidemic now. I even got an award from a major heart rhythms society in the UK. They're worldwide, they're medical, but somehow somebody told them about my work with magnesium, and they gave me an award in 2012 for outstanding clinical application of whatever. I mean,
that's awesome.
It is awesome, and it's a good indication that some people are listening. But it's also, and they should be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've got all these new blood thinner drugs. We've got all these new drugs, very heavy fluoride drugs are used in arrhythmias, so that anybody who has their heart jumping is immediately suspected of having atrial fibrillation. They're told, you could get a blood clot and die of a stroke, so you've got to take, 3 or 4 drugs. And I can't tell people not to take drugs, but what I say is keep taking your drugs, protect yourself as much as you can with the drugs, and then take your magnesium, and then take some of the other minerals that I also work with. And as your heart heals and as your arrhythmia goes away and they can no longer detect it, then any doctor should help you wean off those medications. Now, some of the doctors are resistant to that because in their experience, anybody with heart disease always gets worse.
Yeah.
And, my thinking on that is, well, they're getting worse because they're taking more and more medications, and it's draining more and more magnesium. And Michael, you've heard this story. Okay, I talk about it all the time. Mm-hmm. You go to your doctor for your physical, but you've been under a lot of stress. And you also have white coat syndrome, where the white coat comes to you, puts on the blood pressure cuff, and your blood pressure shoots up. And doctors now,
sometimes it's subconscious too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You haven't got a clue that you're tightening up. So then, the nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, nurse, whatever, marks it down. The doctor comes in, has 5 minutes, says, look, your blood pressure's been up 2 or 3 times now. Here's a diuretic. Let's squeeze all the water out of you and pull out all your minerals and see if that helps your blood pressure. I'm being completely facetious, but that's what's happening. Well, a month later, you go back, your blood pressure's worse. Yeah. Because you're now dehydrated and you've pulled out more magnesium. So your blood pressure's worse, so they put you on a calcium channel blocker. Now, they got that right. They need to block that calcium. But they don't know that magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker. Mm-hmm. And usually it's that and another blood pressure drug. You've got 3 drugs now. Come back in 2 months to make sure your liver isn't being affected by all these drugs.
Because now you've got other ramifications from those things. Taking that, make sure those are in line.
Right. But what happens is your cholesterol is usually elevated because you need magnesium to keep your cholesterol balanced. And your blood sugar is elevated. And one of the signs in the medical book says that magnesium deficiency is a sign of diabetes. So what you've got now is your blood pressure, you've got your impending diabetes, and your high cholesterol. So you're given a couple more drugs.
Well, here I got a real world example because I don't want to miss this. I just wrote it down, but I got a real world example here. Not only did I go into the doctor with my girlfriend for her appointment on Monday, and she had white coat syndrome. She wasn't feeling like, nervous or anxious or anything of that nature, but her blood pressure was like 160 over something, and they took it 3 times. Mm-hmm. And they went from 158 to 162. And then we're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because we have a blood pressure monitor here. Mm-hmm. What I want to talk to you about is elevated cholesterol levels, the relationship between magnesium and higher cholesterol. Because I think her HDL count was somewhere around 235, and it was a 5.4 ratio or something like that. Overall cholesterol around 331. And I understand that everybody's body uses cholesterol, different levels of cholesterol. But what is the connection between magnesium? Because we're sitting there going, how can we deal with this? We don't really want to go the drug route if we don't have to.
Right.
But it's the second year in a row where her bad and good cholesterol have both been up. So
Right.
doctor's going, what's it going to take to kind of get you to, think about trying to get this down? Because my girlfriend had a stroke at 50. They could never figure out why.
Wow. Well, a cholesterol over 300, you do have to look at hereditary
Right.
cholesterol. Is it a genetic thing? If it's not genetic or in your family history, you look at cholesterol as an antioxidant. The more toxicity, then the more you need antioxidants like cholesterol. Now, I don't know, the situation, but I mean, I'm sure her diet is good and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
The putting magnesium in the mix will help as an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory antioxidant. It'll help in that realm, but also in terms of cholesterol itself. If the body needs more cholesterol, then magnesium helps switch on an enzyme that helps make cholesterol. If the body has enough cholesterol, it switches off that mechanism so you don't make as much. So that's where magnesium is a natural statin. Now, if you do all that, you're saturated with magnesium, your cholesterol is going to come down. And also you look at your diet and avoid the meats and the dairy, the fatty meats and the dairy. I'm not a vegetarian, so I'm not saying go vegetarian.
Let's talk about that for a second, because we eat grass-fed beef only.
Right.
And try to go grass-fed, free-range chicken or whatever. Very lean. I got a 4 ounces of grass-fed filet or something like that we had last night. That kind of stuff. Right. I'm not a vegetarian either, and I'm not a purist when it comes to eating, being vegan or vegetarian or whatever. It's more about what not to eat. I mean, there's, I don't know, I've got an affinity for white Canadian cheese, but what the heck? And a little bit of 1%. I don't drink milk myself, but I know she drinks a little 1% milk. But I mean, listen, we're talking about people. I had to go buy her some milk the other day. I was completely and utterly astounded by the selection, because I really haven't bought dairy in years.
Right.
But the selection, 1%, 2%, whole, half, blah, blah. It's pretty amazing, but 1% milk. But probably the most interesting thing you said so far, and I'm going to have her watch this particular interview, is the natural statin effect, the regulating effect. That is fascinating to me, because this is a major problem with many, many, many people, and at an even younger age than we've ever seen before.
Right. So, yes, there's diet, there's magnesium, there's a hereditary factor, which you can look into. And then if you want to do something natural, treatment-wise, there's the red rice yeast. That's the first thing you go to. Apparently, red rice yeast has some natural statins in it. So, I would be kind of careful with that and make sure you're taking your magnesium along with it, and in case it causes some of the muscle effects of the statins. But it's much better than going to the statin drugs, which are very powerful and have a lot of side effects. But yeah, it's interesting about cholesterol. And, I don't mean to prescribe for your girlfriend, but just in general, that's the way I approach cholesterol. And it's so important to, when you look at cholesterol, look at the statins, the doctors will say, oh, no, it doesn't have those side effects. What they're thinking of is the horrible rhabdomyolysis, which is the muscles just turning to mush. What we're talking about with most statin side effects is just aches and pains and just joint aches and muscle aches. And what happened the first decade with statin use is people will go to the doctor, say, well, I've got these aches and pains, and they wouldn't associate it with statins, because most patients think the doctor has their best interests at heart and isn't going to give them a drug that's going to hurt them. So they're saying, oh, I got these aches and pains. Oh, you've got arthritis. Oh, okay, take this take this drug, take this anti-inflammatory, and that just adds to the problem. So, I mean, that's partly what's happening with my scenario, but someone with a blood pressure, then they end up with a whole list of drugs, and doctors are so used to giving these drugs and then seeing people deteriorate, and they never think that it's got to do with the drugs and the decline in the magnesium levels.
That's really, really true. And I think, my girlfriend, love her to death. We follow a very healthy regimen. We get out and we walk, an hour a day, and we play golf. We're active. And, but I think that reason I mention her is not because just single her out, but I think it's important to kind of illustrate the power of things from a personal experience, from that level of personal experience. And that's how I learn. It's how I learn even for myself, so I can avoid something. Now you've developed something, and I just want you to talk about these because you mentioned the magnesium, and I happen to have it here because I do use it. This is ReMag. Magnesium Miracle, okay, and I got it from you, and I've got another one, your RNA drops. And just talk to me a little bit about this. This is not a paid endorsement or whatever. I bought these products. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
I bought these products. I didn't get them for free. And this is I think with this is 150 milligrams for a half a capful or a half a teaspoonful.
Right.
And I actually, just between you, me, and the fence post, I told her the other day, I said, I've been putting magnesium in the water that we're drinking after we filter it. She goes, huh? I said, I didn't want to tell you I was doing it, but I've been doing it. Okay. So it's sometimes.
And she didn't even notice the taste?
No, she didn't even notice the I'm putting it back like for it's one of those pure water containers. You fill it up, and I put 2 capfuls in, and I kind of stir it up a bit. It has a little bit of a slight difference. It's just ever so slight. I can tell, but I don't think anybody who drank the water would be able to tell. Right. Okay, but talk to me about this, because this is what you developed, which doesn't have that laxative effect.
Right.
You tried a lot of different things. Topical, before you do this, talk about the topical versus what you developed, because it's important.
Yeah. Well, I can do that, Michael, from my personal experience, because when I was getting all that laxative effect with all the pills and powders, I said, okay, I've got to use a transdermal. So I was slathering, teaspoons of magnesium oil on my skin to try to take care of my symptoms. But what I found, it got itchy and irritating. It gave me rashes on the back of my neck here. So, and it wasn't dealing with all my symptoms. So I realized I couldn't do that. I couldn't sit in an Epsom salts bath all day to get enough absorption of magnesium. So when I got the ReMag going, it's very concentrated, and that's why I'm happy that you say, when you put a couple of teaspoons in the water, then you can't notice it. I also tell people to put some sea salt in the water for the other minerals. And I do have a multiple mineral for more minerals, and that's well absorbed as well. So the whole thing about magnesium is absorption. And what the chemist has done with this magnesium chloride is made it into a size, a picometer size, that's invisible under an electron microscope, and then stabilize the magnesium ions and the chloride ions. Stabilize that ion of magnesium so it's not bound up with the chloride. It's a tiny enough that it goes straight into the cell. The cell mineral ion channels, what I said, the calcium goes into the cell. Right. It is picometer in diameter. So that size is crucial. The plant rootlets that take up minerals are picometer in diameter. So the plants won't take up minerals unless they're tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's what makes plant magnesium fantastic, but the soil doesn't even have the magnesium anymore. So we've taken that off the table. That ship has sailed. So with the picometer size, the stabilized ions, we get 100% absorption. And we know this from electron microscopy and from a laser technique that measures, is there anything in this liquid? You can take that bottle of magnesium, which we do, we send it to a special lab. They put, photon spectrometry through it, and they don't detect anything. Yet you taste this stuff straight, and it is, very strong.
It's very strong if you take it straight. I mean, it's got if you kind of lick a little off your finger,
so,
it's there.
Yeah, somehow, by the grace of God and nature, this substance is so well absorbed, people can get off their enforced intravenous magnesium. Some people are so deficient in magnesium, heart palpitations, all the symptoms, and they have so much of a laxative effect. They have to have an intravenous port in their arm or in their neck, go into the hospital 3-4 times a week to get their magnesium by IV. They're able to wean off that and get onto oral magnesium, just exactly as you said. And they're taking in, maybe 4 teaspoons of ReMag in, a couple liters of water, sipping it through the day, and that balances everything, makes them much healthier than even the IV magnesium. So anyway, that's how therapeutic it is. What I'm talking about is the therapy of magnesium when you can take enough. And up to now, that has never happened. So what we've got is studies, decades of studies using magnesium oxide. It's only 4% absorbed. It causes a lot of constipation because 96% of it flushes out through the intestines.
Right.
And so you have doctors who say, oh, don't bother about magnesium. It's only a laxative. Doctors who don't measure magnesium, so they don't know that, what's happening in the cells. They don't know how deficient people are becoming. So it's quite a revolution, and it's I call it the gateway for people to get better, get healthier, and then they can look around and have the energy to eat a better diet and exercise, even work harder to be able to afford their ReMag. And
it's a matter of allocating resources. Come on.
Oh, I know.
It's always that way, though. It's about allocating resources. People have the money. They just have to allocate it in the right place.
Right.
Let me ask you this.
Just to quickly say why I made that tongue-in-cheek comment, I don't wholesale the product, so you'll only hear about it on the internet because it's just so expensive to make. If I doubled the cost of it to be able to sell it wholesale, so someone could double the cost on their end, it just would not be affordable. And my whole focus is to give people a program and a protocol of their diet, their sea salt in their water, their ReMag, their Remite minerals, a protein powder, a bit of detox, the RNA drops, and boom, they've got a whole system where, if they stop drinking coffee at Starbucks and stop buying all their other supplements, it's completely affordable. And that's what I'm promoting, a whole new lifestyle.
That is awesome that it's not just a silver bullet situation. It's a combination of different things. Do you have this protocol any place in particular on your website or?
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's at our protocol and product website, rnareset.com.
RNA Reset.
rnareset.com. It's probably under the FAQs, and I'll check. If it's not, I'll get it put up there. It goes up with our product shipping. In your box, you'll see the list. You start with your water and your sea salt. Mm-hmm. You start with that, and then if you're worried, I can't take salt. My doctor said not to take salt. Google my name and salt and find out what I say about that.
That's awesome. I will listen. I don't have any. I'm not beholden to anybody, but I will tell you that I eat real salt from Utah. Redmond Trading Company, which has you can see the minerals in it. It's all at
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, it has to be pink or orange here and now. It's got to look like it's got some minerals. And as for hydration, instead of squeezing out your body with a diuretic to try to manipulate your blood pressure, I tell people, take your body weight in pounds, cut that in half, and drink that many ounces of water through the day. In one of those quarts of water, put a quarter teaspoon of sea salt or Himalayan salt or Celtic salt. And then what you will see is your cells want to have those minerals and they want to have that water. So they'll just siphon it in. And when they siphon in all that water to follow the minerals, then your ankle swelling will go away. You will not get up in the middle of the night urinating all the time. Your water won't go straight through in one end and out the other. It'll stay around to create all those enzyme processes we talked about. And when water is used in chemical reactions, that's your H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, it'll break down and no longer be water. It won't, it'll be something else. And you won't be urinating it out. I mean, it's a little bit complex chemistry, but just to tell you, you're creating biochemical activity in your body just by drinking water and taking some sea salt. And then after that, of course, we're putting our ReMag in the water and our ReMind. The Realign is it's a methylated B vitamin, not a complex, but it's got 4 methylated B vitamins, including B12, which is crucial for your nervous system.
Now, which one is this now?
Realign.
Oh, Realign. Okay.
Realign. And it's got 2 sulfur-based amino acids. The sulfur is very necessary for sulfation detoxification carried out by the liver. And the methionine is a precursor to glutathione. So that's our detoxifier and our antioxidant. So I say that's your heavy metal chelator, your detoxifier. Instead of, putting intravenous chelation or taking all kinds of products that flush your body at your, when you want to do it, no, you give yourself the building blocks and then your body decides when it's time for it to detox. It's all about the building blocks. I mean, what I've realized over the years is, we have our blueprint for our body, but we no longer give it the building blocks to fulfill that blueprint.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Right.
But it's somehow the blueprint's been lost in the mix as well. With all the other things that people want to profit from.
Actually, I'll just finish up with the RNA drops. You had the little sample.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about these little RNA.
Yeah, now that's kind of crazy, this one, because this came out of us wanting to make a water purifier. I had the recipe for one from 30 years ago to make a water purifier. And then it turned into making a 400-pound block, a clay, almost a cement block to purify. But in the factory doing this water purifier, the liquid that came off of the barley sprouts that are used to make this water purifier, that liquid, the factory workers started feeling healthy and bright and bushy-tailed and even blissful. And we realized that it's like the byproduct, waste product of our water purifier was actually a health treatment. So we don't make any claims for it. We rely on people taking it, trying the sample bottle, giving us testimonials. But what we see happening is that it is helping people make perfect cells. It's getting that blueprint cleaned up, and it's bringing people off the heart transplant list. It's getting people out of their wheelchairs. And you can see why I don't talk about it too much, because it sounds crazy. And everybody creates their own reality with this type of product, because when you taste it, when you put it in your mouth, everybody tastes something different.
Yeah. I thought when I added it to same water, put the magnesium in.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes it taste a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not a bad. That actually makes it taste great. The question before we get away from this and end the session, how long does it take? How long does it take to actually see some benefit from the magnesium supplementation you're talking about? I mean, I'm going to tell you that I probably put a couple of capfuls in about a quart of water. Okay. And I use sea salt, the real salt I talk about, generally when I am, if I'm out and I'm perspiring a lot. I live in North Florida, so there can be really hot days here. Other than that, I season all my food with it. I'm going to make this video about how to make the healthiest popcorn in the world with that sea salt and organic butter and white kernel. Air pop popcorn. That's going to happen here at the end of this month. I'm getting a special camera to make that video. I'm going to make that video because it's awesome. So I get a lot of good sea salt. What's a good starter dose, and how long is it going to take somebody to see the benefits, derive some benefits from magnesium supplementation?
Right. Well, since it does so many things, you may take it for your heart palpitations, but then you'll say, oh my gosh, my twitching went away. People will say, after 2 doses, I just felt brighter. I felt my head clearer. We have hundreds of symptoms that are relieved, and it's pretty quick for most people. But because I seem to attract very complex cases, people, the last resort, people have tried everything, spend all their money, and they're just fed up, and and so we tell people, look, be really careful especially if you're on a lot of medications, if you feel you're sensitive, if you've taken things before and reacted, or if you're very toxic. As soon as you start taking something that's going to help detoxify you, you could feel a little more toxicity because you're dumping. Right. So you want to go. I mean, we have people starting with 5 drops of ReMag. On the label, it says to start with a quarter teaspoon. Quarter teaspoon is 75 milligrams. It's going to have a therapeutic effect. I mean, we have people calling us at customer service all the time. Well, I'm taking quarter teaspoon. I'm 80% better. Why aren't I 100% better? And we say, oh my gosh, you're only taking 75 milligrams and you're 80% better. I'm like, that's a miracle. So it's education. And, we'd rather people take 5 drops for a month instead of, taking 2 teaspoons and then buying more. We'd rather them start as slow as possible so that you get your cells, you get your body used to being kind of woken up. It's like putting your arm over a chair and it's numb. It comes down. You're going to feel it. So when you feel yourself waking up, you don't want to mistake that as being you getting worse. You want to know, oh yeah, my body's starting to wake up the 700, 800 different enzyme systems. And then what happens is your body keeps wanting more and more and more until you reach a therapeutic dose, until you get saturated. And another miracle that happens is once you're saturated, your symptoms are gone, you've weaned off your medications, you'll start feeling the laxative effect. I mean, we get that at customer service all the time. Oh my gosh, it's not working. I'm getting the laxative effect. No, you just need less. Oh my gosh, isn't that wonderful?
Because your body's reached the saturation point?
Yes, exactly. And then it's a fail-safe of magnesium. If you get too much or don't need all that you're taking, then the body will release it through the intestines. Unlike calcium, which builds and builds and builds, and that's where we've got calcification syndrome happening in a lot of people, especially these poor women who've been told to take calcium for their bones. They're getting heart disease, they're getting breast tissue calcifications, heel spurs, kidney stones, gallstones. They're getting all kinds of calcification, they're calcifying. Bladder calcification, meaning, they're getting leaking bladders. It's too much calcium and not enough magnesium.
That is so interesting. This has been an amazing and eye-opening conversation. For those of you who might have forgotten, because it's been almost an hour, this is Dr. Carolyn Dean, and she's an MD and a naturopathic doctor. Carolyn, it has been just stellar being able to finally sit down and have this conversation with you. And I know I've been taking these for over a year, and we'll continue. And you've given me a wonderful lesson about how it's helping me. I think that the benefit of doing something like this is directly related to how bad off you were in the first place, how deficient you really were.
Yes.
And in my whole dietary situation, our situation, we attempt to eat as healthy as we possibly can without, sacrificing what we really enjoy. And we're able to do that and do it in smaller portions and walk and, introduce some exercise, because, sitting's the new smoking, and I sit a lot of the day. So I get my hour walk in the morning so that I don't feel bad at the end of the day. But it's been awesome. I would love to do this again sometime, maybe in the next couple of months. I'm going to put this out there, and I hope that other people can learn something about this. Now, they can find out about ReMag on your website, rnareset.com. Is that where you go?
Yes, that's the product website for all my free newsletters and blogs and access to my radio show. That's drcarolyndean.com.
Dr.
Carolyndean.com.
carolyndean.com. I'm going to put that on the social media posts and the Facebook posts so that it goes immediately to your website. Mm-hmm. This has been Beyond the 3D, the show that I hope that you as listeners and as viewers have gotten as much out of this as I have. I've had such a joy talking with you. I want to wish you, I want to say mahalo because you're in Maui, and aloha, of course. And let's do this again sometime, okay?
I'd love to, Michael, and aloha, mahalo to you as well. And all the listeners, thank you.
Thank you so much, my dear. Please enjoy the rest of your day, okay? Because I know it's probably sometime around 11 o'clock in the morning there.
It is, and I'm off to the ocean.
Taking that walk on the beach, girl?
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
That was awesome.